Good evening, and welcome to Story Hour. I'm tonight's host, Laura Blackwell. My co-host, the marvelous Daniel Marcus, started Story Hour way back in the early days of the pandemic to help people stay connected in a time when they absolutely did not dare show their faces to one another. And 4 years later, we're still going strong. We've been having so much fun. We've been coming back every Wednesday. And we'd like to thank SIFWA for the Givers Fund grant, which is helping us to keep the Zoom rooms open. Is that the right metaphor? The streaming, the virtual campfire burning. Let's go with that. So welcome back to those of you who are returning, and welcome also to those of you who are here for the first time. As always, we have two writers reading their own work. Tonight's readers are Debbie Urbanski and Matthew Thomas Meade. If you're here on Zoom, feel free to chime in on the text chat. If you're joining us on Facebook, also feel free to chime in on the text chat, but please understand that probably none of us are reading that right now. So, be grown-ups. Yeah, we'll see you later. Our first reader tonight is Debbie Urbanski. Debbie Urbanski is the author of the novel Afterworld, Simon & Schuster, 2023, and a lot of short stories. Her work has been published in FNSF, Best American Science Fiction and Fantasy, Lightspeed, Strange Horizons, The Sun, Granta, and the Best American Experimental Writing. She tries to spend as much time as possible hiking with her family in the hills south of Syracuse, New York. You can find her online at debbieurbanski.com or on Instagram at Debbie Urbanski. Debbie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and for creating this space for short stories. I'm really excited to read tonight, and I'm really excited to read with my friend Matt, who we've been friends for years and years, and this is our first reading together. So,
oh my gosh, I had no idea. That's so exciting.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Now, I
Yeah.
understand you two are bringing the intensity tonight. So you have a few content warnings to start us off with before you jump in. Is that right?
Yes, yes. The story is called How to Remain Safe During a Conversation If You're Somebody's Wife. Content warnings, possible mental health shaming. There's 2 curse words, and there's mention of rape in a dream. So it's not explicit. It happens at the end, but it does come up. So it's a little bit unsettling. It was published but hopefully unsettling in a good way. It was published in Uncharted magazine in 2021, and there is a lot of dialogue in the story between 2 characters, John and Katie. So I'll do my best to distinguish between them. Also pause a little bit, but hopefully it'll be clear who's talking. So
let's
I'll
hear.
begin. Don't leave me home alone today, she says. You're home alone every day. You work at home, he points out. His name is Johnny, or more informally, John. Hers is Catherine, or Katie, or Kat. They sit in the neutrally decorated living room of their colonial-style house. The most striking aspect of the house is its symmetry. Today is different, says Katie. Tell me, what's different about today? Something is going to happen, she says. Something always happens. Something bad, she says. He sits upon the gray striped futon, she on the textured taupe couch. Beside the futon are the fireplace tools, a poker, a brush, a shovel, tongs. Beside the couch is a 3-drawer end table constructed out of pale laminate. On top of the end table is a water glass half full. Katie reaches for the water glass. Her fingertips, when viewed through a clear liquid, look foreign and metamorphic. Kat, you're safe. You're so safe. Whatever you're feeling is temporary, and I promise it'll pass. Between the couch and the futon is the fireplace. In the fireplace is a compact and appropriate social fire. Did you forget to take your meds today, honey? That's none of your business, John, she says. In particular, I'm wondering about your new meds, the pills that might be, in your doctor's words, agitating. I believe my doctor said energizing. Actually, she said increased hostility and confusion. I was taking notes. This is a fact I'm experiencing, not a feeling, she says. Something bad is going to happen today. Let's keep our voices low and calm, dear. No, Katie raises her voice. She thumps the water glass onto the end table without a sip. What a cliche you are this morning. Oh, the crazy wife, mental illness is individual horror show, medication is genre plot device. Something bad is going to happen here, whether I swallow my uncoated white pills or not. Katie looks around the room, which has, during this conversation, become decidedly less familiar. On the cluttered fireplace mantel, an oversized wooden M, for most, monsoon, music, melody, museum beetle, stands alongside a collection of historical pewter vases and ceramic birds. Neither she nor John have ever collected vases or birds. A chalk sign beside the fireplace reads, "Gather," written in somebody else's cursive. The bird collection includes a red cardinal figurine on a gray branch, a blue jay on a brown branch, and a brown owl on a brown branch. The fire flares, snapping whenever Katie looks away. She's stating the obvious when she tells John it may be too late. Already their house has changed. She lists some of the changes. The widening ceilings, she says, plus the cavernous doorways, or should I say carnivorous. The photographs of another family on our walls, an increase in rippling. Let's try the paced breathing exercises together, he says. In for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. Then in for 4 again, hold for 7, out for 8. 4, 7, 8. Ready? As for the other houses on the block, she says, overall, there has been a substantial decrease in emergency egresses. John removes his glasses and rubs his eyes. Should we call Dr. M? So she could tell me this is all in my head? So she could adjust your medication. He puts his glasses back on. I liked you better on the old meds, to be honest. You have a piece of food stuck in your teeth, she says. The blue skin of a fruit, or maybe it's some other kind of skin, has wedged between his upper right lateral incisor and his upper right canine. Johnny rubs his tongue vigorously across his front teeth. Gone? He asks. Gone, Katie lies. She changes the position of her legs. A car approaches their house, pauses, sputters off. The sound of the engine fading. We were discussing, John begins. You preferred the meds that made me sleep all the time. The ones that made you laugh things off, yes, and sleep. I don't have to sleep anymore. How early did you get up today? Irrelevant. Sleep or medications or healthy eating or self-care or a warm bubble bath are not going to change the reality of our situation. Something bad is going to happen or is already happening. You're starting to repeat yourself, dear. And you're once again assuming your reality is the correct one and mine never is. Listen, bad things are about to happen all the time, especially now. They're probably already happening, only you aren't seeing them. What am I supposed to tell you? John pulls an index card from his pants pocket, a card he is always supposed to carry with him. He begins to read using a soothing voice with relaxed vocal cords. What you're feeling is scary but not dangerous. This too will pass. Remember, this is not your permanent state of being. There is no perfect action, so relax. He looks up. Is this helping? We need to find a place without closets, Katie says. A feeling isn't reality. Focus on your breathing. Breathe with me. Where was I? Okay, you're breathing. A room with very few doorways, she says. Are you refusing to practice your breathing? To be precise, less than one doorway. The upstairs bathroom, she suggests. He returns the index card to his pocket. You're sounding crazy, dear. Stop dragging my mental health into this story. It appears to me that your mental health has already overtaken this story. A cliche interpretation, Katie says, disappointed. You said that already. Oh, I'm so real. Oh, everything I see in front of me must be real, and everything she sees must not be real, she says. Are you pretending to be me? He asks. I was pretending to be you. She looks carefully around the room again, paying closer attention to the walls, which are now a cream color, smudged with gray fingerprints and smelling of antiseptic soap. We should leave the city immediately, or we could hide in the basement root cellar. I'm not sure which is the correct decision. Either way, we should bring our tent. Our tent? Is there another tent you had in mind? John rubs the fingers of his right hand across the skin of his left hand. The skin, particularly around his knuckles, is cracked and dry. Listen, I'm already late. The Monday management meeting. Are you going to be okay? You have Dr. M's number. Which is useless. She wants to help. As she can't pick up the phone, what are you talking about? He asks. Go ahead, call her. He sighs, dials the psychiatrist. She's always picked up the phone, he says. A minute pauses. She'll pick up the phone. 2 minutes, 3. What a surprise she's not picking up, says Katie. So she's not at her office this early in the morning. I'll call her cell. He taps his phone again and waits. He puts his phone away. So she slept in, he says, or she's sick. She's with another patient. You have quite the imagination. She's out running errands. I don't think we should go outside anymore. John squats beside the fireplace and uses the poker to shift around the scorched logs. Sparks ascend the chimney. How exactly do you plan on picking up the kids this afternoon? Thomas at 3, Lila at what, 4:30? He is losing patience. Something bad is about to happen or is happening, she says. I did not fucking sign up for this. An explosion of agitation in his voice. I'll get the water and your pills, then I need to leave. One of us has to work. It's going to happen. John stomps into the kitchen. He yanks open drawers, twists on the faucet. In the living room, Katie closes the windows and pulls down the blinds, which are light blocking. John re-enters the living room with a fresh glass of water and a tiny orange pill bowl. It's certainly gotten dark, he says, setting the orange bowl and the new water glass on the end table. Yet again, stating the obvious, she says, what would you rather I say? I'm getting very tired of you. I didn't mean that. Yeah, well, John glances toward the front door. What's that? She hears the sound outside too. She says, I don't hear any sounds. Listen, wait, they're scraping. Nails against wood, wood against glass. You're making things up. Somebody's out there. Why would there be a sound? Or several people? She sits quietly on the textured couch, her hands in her lap. The people in the photographs are staring at her face. I know, she says. Maybe you should go outside and examine the noise. You said I shouldn't go outside. I changed my mind. I think you should go outside now. That would really prove something. That would really prove me wrong. The scraping intensifies, a multitude of scrapings. Footfalls running up and down the driveway, something with claws prowls across the roof. God damn those noises. What am I, in your head or something? John stands near the window and taps his phone. I'm calling the cops. They won't answer. The police don't answer. I'm checking the local news, he says. I bet we'll both feel better once the bad thing finishes happening. Okay, there's no news. We won't have to worry anymore that something bad is going to happen. It will have happened, and then we can move on with our lives, what's left of our lives. John throws his phone onto the floor in disgust, walks over to the window, and shoves up the blinds. Somebody or something has covered the window glass with a thick layer of organic material like soil or decay. He goes around the room lifting all the blinds. Someone or something has done that to every window. I'm going outside, John says. Katie sits very still again with her hands in her lap, her nails digging into her skin using shallow breaths. John moves toward the front door. He moves his hand onto the doorknob. Wait, says Katie, don't. His hand jerks back. You just told me to go outside. I changed my mind again. I won't be long. You aren't coming back. My little drama queen, he says with emotion and exits through the front door. The wind is blowing things around outside, a storm of grass clippings and plastic patio furniture. Katie locks the door behind him. She does not unlock the door when, an hour later, he pounds on the door asking to be let in. She does not let him back in. He has a key to the front door. He unlocks the door and leaves his key on the foyer table in a wooden bowl. The bowl was supposed to be carved by hand, but it's probably not. I'm back, he says. No, you're not, Katie says. They're standing in the living room again, and he is moving across the room toward her, acting like the air between them is thick and difficult to walk through. Katie steps backwards. This isn't you. You aren't you. Come on, it's me. Your nose is different for starters. You've known me for how many years? And your eyes? My eyes were never blue. They used to be blue, she said. I knew you were going to say that. My eyes were always this color. What color then? Come on, the color of my eyes. That isn't even your shirt. What a silly conversation we're having. I want to show you something outside. Literally, I don't recognize your shirt. Come on outside with me. She takes another step backwards. You were wearing a blue t-shirt when you went outside, and now this. His current shirt is short-sleeved, fitted, pearl buttons, patterned with a red wash of discoid cells. He runs his fingernail across the collar of his shirt. You gave the shirt to me on my birthday, he says. I would never have given you that kind of shirt. Remind me, when is your birthday again? It's the date of my birthday, the date on my driver's license. Here, look, it's June 13. What a nice shirt. Thank you for the comfortable shirt. I suppose you're going to try and convince me those are your shoes as well. Conversation time is over, he says. Come outside with me now. You even smell different. You smell fungal. You used to smell like aftershave. Don't come any closer. He steps closer to her. How would you like me to smell? Like yourself? I'll see what I could do. He takes another step closer. He takes another step closer, then reaches around her. She's against the wall by this point, to pull open one of the front windows. He does not pull the window open far, a few inches a crack. That's as far as the window will go anyway. A strong, unyielding wind accelerates through the house. The fire flares up. The birds on the mantel are alive and thrashing. They are flapping their ceramic wings frantically, while at the same time, their claws are anchored to the recreations of branches and snowy logs. John laughs with delight, his hair a mess. The birds are struggling instead of flying, emitting screeches of frustration. Katie slams the window shut. She locks the window, the birds quiet, the fire settles down. Party pooper, says John, disappointed. Katie exhales slowly. By the end of her exhalation, she has a plan. Her plan is neither complicated nor all that interesting. She's going for survival, not flash. That was so exciting, she says. Do you like excitement, says John. She nods. Because it's certainly exciting out there. It's different, but you've convinced me. I'll come outside with you. Her plan is not to go outside with him. Great. I mean, that's so great. But first, you need to go first. But I need you to go first so I know it's safe, she says. He stares at her for a long time. Not at her eyes, but at her mouth, her chin. She stares back at his nose, his chin. He must see something solid and trustworthy in her that isn't there. She will always wonder what he saw. He nods and walks outside. He waits for her on the front stoop, arms at his side, palms open, in the middle of the wind, grinning in his blood cell shirt. She does not follow him. Instead, she shuts and locks the door. He knocks politely at first, as if there's been a mistake. She doesn't unlock the door. He pounds on the door with his fist, his head. She sits on the comfortable couch in the living room, her hands on her knees. He threatens to kick the door in. He doesn't kick the door in, or rather, he tries and fails. That's the last thing he says to her. After that, an absence of voices, of the human sort, at least. The wind throws dirty rhizomes against the covered windows. Thud, thud, thud. She tosses each collectible into the fire. The birds break into many pieces. Their wings fall off. They tumble off the branches and skitter around the fireplace until she hits them repeatedly with a fire poker, so they remain still. Enough, she thinks. She flips the frames to face the wall. The fire sputters out. It turns out she was right all along. Her therapist had once told her the worry of an event can be worse than the event itself. John once told her to solve a problem, you have to imagine a checkbox and what would need to happen to check off the box. Her mother once talked to her about the accumulation of positives, which don't just happen. Her neighbor told her all solutions have cons, and she had to figure out how to deal with the cons. Her other therapist from the skills group said holding on to rage is like taking poison and expecting the other person to die. She underlined that particular piece of advice. Why are you so angry? This therapist had asked Katie. Maybe I'm just angry, Katie told him. People are angry for a reason, the therapist said, as if she couldn't be angry unless he understood why. Sometimes you have to apologize for what you didn't do, her mother once told her. I know you have a problem listening to my feelings, said John. Once in a dream, her father-in-law, John's father, paid a stranger to take her into a private room and rape her. In the dream, John let this happen. He sat in the other room in a folding chair, chatting with his dad, playing gin, waiting. Oh my, does that little piece of the puzzle not belong here? She wonders to herself. All those people judging her story, does it make narrative sense? Are her behaviors warranted? Is she crazy or not? Did she forget about her children? Because they were mentioned previously in her story, then, oh look, they aren't mentioned any longer, because she struck out any further mentions of them. Oh, she wonders, should I have brought up my anger earlier? Is it out of place here towards the end? Is it improper? Is it out of proportion? Can I not be angry for what happened to me in a dream? No, 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 no. Be a character, she coaches herself softly, gently. Be reasonable. Be descriptive. Make sense, make sense, make sense. Indirect light enters the room through the edges of the windows and the narrow space between the blinds and the window casings. Sharp rectangular shapes, bright on the blank wall. The fireplace smells of old ash. The surface of the couch is worn. The striped futon has been in the living room for more than a decade. The problem being this futon would not break, so she was unable to justify a replacement. What else, she wonders. On the floor, the colorful wool rug sheds like an animal, and there is an occasional knock at the front door. It sounds like someone pretending to be a different person when knocking. Everything is fine. She will not be tricked. The sky is gone. That is a literally true statement. Katie had listened to the pieces of the sky hit the valley of the roof. Only in the evening does she pretend otherwise, or she wouldn't fall asleep. She sleeps on the floor. When she gets up off the floor, tiny wool hairs cling colorfully to her clothing. The narrative, find the narrative, she whispers. Granted, difficult to do when one is by oneself in the living room with the blinds closed, the windows masked, unable to leave the house without a sky. Find it anyway. Here's a hint. It does not look like a golden thread.
Wow, I love that. Ah, it's funny, Debbie, as you were starting, when you were starting it with the two different voices, the dialogue, I thought, gosh, this would be a really great play. I could see this being a one act.
Oh, I
Yeah,
love plays. That would be
yeah.
so cool.
I did
Yeah.
too. But then as it got more and more into the meta and the prose, I realized, no, this is the form it has to be in. If you made a play of this, it would be something different, not
Mm-hmm.
really different. And I love that. I love that you played with the form that way.
Thanks. Yeah, it was fun. It was a really fun story to write. It was based on some feedback I had received on another story. So I thought I'm just going to channel all of that into a new story, and yeah, it felt good to write.
Great. Well, it is our way at Story Hour to just take a moment to let the first story sink in and ready ourselves for a new one. And often the best way to do this is just with a deep breath. Everybody, that was Debbie Urbanski. And our next reader today is Matthew Thomas Meade. Matthew Thomas Meade has a debut short story collection called Strip Mall, which was published in 2023 by Tailwinds Press. He is the winner of the C&R Summer Tide Pool Chapbook Contest for his essay collection, Rocket Flower. His strange and surreal stories have appeared in prestigious literary outlets such as The Sun, Saturday Evening Post, Bourbon Pen, and Columbia Journal. He is currently being monitored by the NSA. And so are you. Matt, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, this is very exciting. I'm really happy to get to read alongside Debbie. I loved her story.
What a great pairing this is going to be. Now, I understand that you understand that we do usually do content warnings, but this is a fun thing for everybody because Matt and I have been talking about this. It's really hard sometimes for authors to do their own content warnings because we know what we're going for very intimately, more than anybody else knows. And knowing what's going to set somebody else off, knowing what you need to keep back as a surprise for the story, it's all a question. How much are we telegraphing? So I went ahead and read Matt's two stories for tonight. And I'm going to say that they're disturbing. I would say in a good way, but disturbing. Maybe, and more violent than Debbie's was. So just bear this in mind when you're thinking about whether you need to go make yourself a cup of cocoa before you watch this, or if you even dare. And now, Matthew Thomas Meade.
I like that. I like that better than my my bio.
Oh,
That should be my new bio. I appreciate that. Yeah,
you're welcome to it. In your award speech.
Thanks for setting it up that way. Yeah, I'm gonna read two very short stories. They're both should take me about 10 minutes each. So the first one is called 5 Tips to Duodecuple Your Running Distance, which was originally published a couple of years ago on an online website, an online lit mag called Defenestration Magazine. And the only other thing that you need to know about this story is the word duodecouple is just in the string of Latin numerals from, double, triple, quadruple, quintuple, sextuple, septuple. It's to a multiple of 12. I was just trying to get cute with it, and sometimes I wonder if I should have made it a little simpler. But if you know that, you know everything else, everything you need to know about the story. So here we go. Let me read it. 5 tips to duodecouple your running distance. We've all been there. You get up early every day, hit the trail, try to maintain the right diet, pray to the owl god Moloch for stamina in your legs, but you can't seem to run any farther or any faster than you did yesterday. This article has some helpful tips that are guaranteed to get you running up to 12 times farther than you ever have before. You can get started today. Number 1, get a partner. The first tip is one that might surprise you. Exercising with a partner can help you in so many ways. An accountability partner keeps you committed to your program, gives you someone with whom you can share your frustrations or difficulties. If you manage to run with someone who is at or near the same fitness level as you, then you can challenge each other and push each other whilst running together. You'd be surprised how much you have left in the tank when you're competing against someone else. You'll also be surprised how fast a bond can grow between two people exercising together regularly. A special and unspoken pact can develop under those conditions. Number 2, stop bringing that old dishwasher with you on your run. One thing most runners don't think about is how heavy a dishwasher is. They can be upwards of 100 extra pounds of steel and electrical equipment. There is no reason to bring an old dishwasher with you on your run. Even if you have your old dishwasher on wheels, it can still add unnecessary friction and a difficult obstacle to your workout. So, ditch that old dishwasher and see how much farther you can go. As an added bonus, you'll probably also shave minutes off your mile time. Number 3, don't run into the wind. An old adage states that running into the wind slows you down more than the wind at your back speeds you up. While this may or may not be verifiably true, the fact remains that running into the wind can be miserable. It has cut short many a run and can make you think twice about your training methods. To avoid the wind, try to avoid running on days that are extra windy, or if you can't rearrange your schedule around the weather, try planning your route so as to avoid running directly into the wind. Perhaps one day the globalists will share their weather controlling technology with the world. Until that day, you are stuck just trying to avoid the wind rather than attempting to govern it. Number 4, have your legs replaced with cybernetic parts at a secret Illuminati surgical facility. This surgery is common for the elites and the lizard people who rule and control our world, but how can someone like you get access to this wonderful technology? It's not as hard as you might think. Most towns have an Illuminati headquarters, a Masonic temple, or a participating Applebee's where these kinds of operations are carried out regularly. You'll have to break into the facility at night, so you'll need a gun. You'll have to make contacts in the black market and the underworld because you don't want to legally purchase a firearm. You don't want to have to go through the hassle of acquiring the weapon through standard means and then falsifying a police report saying the gun is lost, because even that might remove suspicion from you. Even that might not remove some suspicion from you. It could intensify it. The best bet is to get a weapon with no history and no serial numbers. You'll have to involve your training partner, of course. If you've developed the kind of bond that develops between most athletes who train together, having them and their family over for dinner, knowing the strengths and weaknesses of each other's bodies, revealing to each other while you train the great fears and desires you have, sharing more than you've ever shared with anyone else, they'll help you. You can start with suggesting that you'll need them to watch your back and see if that gets them involved. And then you can convince them that they too need to replace their legs with cybernetic appendages. Under cover of the 3 a.m. darkness, you'll drive over to that Applebee's with the secret operating facility in the basement. You'll be wearing ski masks and tactical gear. You won't talk much because you'll both be trying to wrestle with the fear in your gut. You'll park the car and sit and stare at the facility for a long time, thinking about how far you've come, how it all started with getting that running app and thinking you might sign up for a 5K. That was a long time ago. You'll have to kill or incapacitate the guards. It's preferable to kill them so they don't cause problems later on. You and your partner will realize at this moment that you have crossed some kind of threshold and there is no coming back. You'll look at each other in the faces and know that this is something you won't be able to escape from. That for the rest of your life, the sound of those men make when they die will haunt your dreams. With that existential unease will come the fear that accompanies phone calls from unknown numbers. Even the phrase itself will send you into a dread spiral. Loud bangs will startle you. Seeing police cars will convince you that they've caught on. But how else will you duodecouple your distance while also reducing your average per mile time? It's not like you're going to take steroids. Once you get into the inner sanctum of the facility, the scientist who performs the surgeries will be operating on someone else. It will be someone you recognize, some celebrity from a show you know, or perhaps some state senator you once voted for, maybe even that former athlete who does commercials for a local car dealership, linking your town to the world at large. A former ring-wearing world champion for a professional sports team in your very town, shaking hands with the local business owner who sold you your Toyota. You and your partner will have your guns on the scientist doctor. He will be nonplussed, his smock covered in the blood of the person you recognize who is in the process of getting the surgery you want. Why should he have it and not you? The doctor will smile at you and he will know your name. He will know what you were there for, as if he's been expecting you all along. He will know what you want. Of course you want your legs, he will say, his voice slippery and seductive. He wears goggles on his face and a beard on his chin, but no mustache. He will tell you the only way for you to get what you want is to offer a blood sacrifice. Moloch does not do but for blood, he will say, stating it with pity in his voice, as if he knows what it takes to do such a thing. Your partner will look at you, their gun still trained on the doctor. They will look at you in the eyes to see if you are believing this nonsense that the doctor is spouting, to see if you are ready to retreat back out of the door and leave this all behind. Return to the running trail, stumbling along the path slowly but still whole, haltingly but without the kind of guilt that transforms you. We can't back out now, you'll tell them. What would your father say, you ask, knowing just how to get to them? And your partner will swallow hard, sufficiently shamed, and they will step toward the celebrity whose sports trading card your kid has traded with your partner's kid. Your partner will put their illegally obtained weapon to the recognizable face of the famous person and pull the trigger, which will allow you the opportunity to place your gun to your partner's head and dispatch them, shooting them through the skull before they even realize what you're thinking. You understand what the evil doctor / mad scientist wants, and that is your burden and your partner's loss. The doctor will not help you incinerate the bodies, but it will hardly register as a bother. You won't feel anything as you stuff the bodies of the celebrity and your former partner into the furnace. You will smell the flesh burning. It will singe your nostril hair. And as you go under from the anesthetics, the drug like a black pool of water covering your face, you'll think of how fast your mile time will be and how many more events you'll be able to sign up for, how far you will go on your new legs. Number 5, drink lots of water. Finally, make sure you stay hydrated. This may be the most important of all the tips. Its importance cannot be overstated. If a belt pouch isn't enough, you may have to bring a backpack bladder. The body is comprised of 80% water, they say, even though that is not true, especially not for you at this point, because you will be comprised of a significant amount of steel and more electronics than that dishwasher you stopped pushing weeks ago. And the black goo that you thought was some kind of hallucination brought on by the anesthetics has actually replaced your blood. And as you discover when you cut yourself shaving and spray what looks like motor oil all over the bathroom mirror. But it's still important to drink lots of water, to keep your joints lubricated and to maintain the correct level of hydration. It will be lonely out there on the trail without your partner, but once you run far enough, fast enough, there will be new friends at the finish lines. Fast friends who have also murdered their best friends, or their loved ones, or their fathers and their children to attain their goals. Who knows what these new friends will push you to achieve, what they might be able to do for your career, what delights they will present you with. You'll finish in the top 10% for your age group at a benefit run for the local celebrity who used to do commercials for the local Toyota dealership, whose death is shrouded in mystery and whose killer is yet to be identified or apprehended. You'll compare your new legs and laugh about the way you no longer feel anything when you are embraced by your child. You'll all have a good chuckle about it. Happy running. The end. All right. So that's one story. So that took, okay, good. That took 9 minutes, just like I thought. So the next story I'm going to read, should we take a breath in between the two stories like you did before? The next story is a story that is published in my collection from last year, Strip Mall. I have a copy here, so I'll just hold it up. This is a story. This is the shortest story from that collection, and it is called "You Would Understand Why I'm Like This If You Were the Exact Same Person as Me." And it pairs well with Debbie's story because it is also about a couple having a conversation. So I'm going to read that one. There we go. And that should also take 9 minutes. Okay. You would understand why I'm like this if you were the exact same person as me. Neither of them could remember whose idea it was to read the book. The only book in the house that they had 2 copies of. It was as if the books were placed there with some kind of intention. It took them a while to read it. He had read the first 100 pages in a single evening, and she didn't get started for another week. He put the book down and let himself be distracted by other things, but she continued and read a few pages each day. She found herself savoring it. When she finished, she urged him to complete it because she found it so moving, so beautiful, so sad. You thought it was beautiful? He asked. raising his eyebrow in that way he did, that was almost as if to say, what if I raise my eyebrow like this? Wouldn't it be terribly dismissive and superior? And yet, even with the self-awareness of the gesture, it still came off as terribly dismissive and superior, perhaps more so than if he'd been oblivious. And moving. Are you sure you don't mean gauzy and melodramatic, rendered with purple prose and a heavy hand? Ugh, you're being so prescriptive, she said. I am not. I'm merely meeting the book on its own terms and pointing out the ways in which it fails. You'd understand if you were in my shoes, she said. Come on, it's not like that. It's not like I can't understand this book just because it was written by someone who doesn't look like me. I like all kinds of books. I love Toni Morrison, for example. Everyone loves her. That does not count. I'm just saying I'm able to like books by queer women of color. I just don't like this one. Toni Morrison wasn't gay. I didn't say gay, I said queer. I'm not sure you're allowed to say that word. Oh, now who's being prescriptive? You'd understand why this book is so great if you could see where I'm coming from. Mitch realized in a sudden, humiliating moment that Allison was right. And in a rare foray into honesty, both with his wife and with himself, he told her as much. When she came home from work the next day, he was wearing her underwear. Fuck me, he said. Fuck me like I fuck you. Do you think that is what will make you understand the book? Do it, he said. And she tried, but to no avail. So he found someone who could oblige, near enough. First, a truck driver named Jerry who smelled like onions, and then Mitch's best friend. Finally, a prostitute who looked good until he smiled and revealed his tiny little teeth, tiny, like the tiny pebbles that pile up at the bottom of a fish tank. Mitch noticed Allison going from combative to cordial, always a sign of the end of things. She spent a lot of time on the phone and met with someone who Mitch assumed was a lover. Mitch got drunk in a bar and got himself into a circumstance that was dangerous and ill-advised, but still, he did not understand the book. He knew the only way to do it would be to go back to the beginning and live Allison's life from infancy, and so he did. Her childhood was beautiful to him, for the most part, except for that time with Brooke Shelley in the tub when no one else was looking, and that time she got 12 stitches because her sister accidentally stabbed her in the head with a TV antenna. But even that was beautiful because Mitch knew she would survive it, and it was nice to see Mia and Sam still together, and Brandy still alive and feeling guilty for hurting Allison. It was beautiful to look up and see everyone looking down with love, those eyes aimed sympathetically at Mitch as he experienced Allison's life. There were those tough high school years, of course, and those years where she was pretending to be going to college when she was actually waitressing and squandering all her money on booze, but those had their high points as well. Mitch tried to enjoy them where he could, the way any young person enjoys their misspent youth. When things became too difficult, too sad, too humiliating, he would remind himself that it wasn't he who was feeling these things, but Allison, though that could sometimes make it worse. It was hard for Mitch to have to quit Allison's job at her father's company. Sam had given her the job after she'd been fired from the restaurant, and the time when Allison had that job was a good time, a time of calm and eating dinner with her dad and stepmom a couple times a week, and a time of trying to get herself together even though she was still drinking. But Mitch knew Allison had quit the job, and so he would have to quit the job, even though he knew that doing so would eventually turn out to be a bad idea for her. Allison didn't know it at the time, but there wouldn't be a way to understand the book if he didn't make all the mistakes as her that she had made. And there was being attacked in the parking lot, of course, and that turned out to be the most awful, even though he knew it was coming, especially because he knew it was coming. Meeting himself turned out to not be as cinematic as he had expected. From Allison's perspective, Mitch could see that he was a bit pompous, a bit miserable, and needy, it turned out. More than he'd thought. More than he'd realized. By the time he got to read the book as her, with all of her experiences, with her perspective, whittled by the blade of her triumphs and pains, He'd almost forgotten what he'd been doing. It had been 34 years after all, but when he came across the book as Allison, it seemed like the most natural thing in the world. It was like a tongue slipping into a groove. There were the books placed neatly on a shelf, identical copies, though one was slightly discolored. They looked like an artifact from childhood, like they belonged to his parents, like they were something he was not supposed to touch but was going to anyway. Mitch, coming to the book with Allison's experiences layered on top of his own, like long sleeve shirts in the late fall, read it at first with interest and then hungrily, and then with dread that the end was near. He cried at moments when he wasn't sure he was supposed to cry, and he laughed when the two side characters wound up together for the first time, and he felt sick to his stomach when news of the father reached the protagonist. It was like the book knew him, knew what he wanted, what he expected, and then used that to manipulate him. It was like someone had pulled a sheet away from him that he'd been using to cover his naked body, and rather than being ashamed, he found himself stimulated by being naked. He felt wrung out and cold, but glad of it. Seen. Mitch, who was now Allison, hardly even cared that her husband didn't seem to like or understand the book. She could hardly muster the energy to argue with him. Having completed the book, Allison called the original Allison to let her know that she'd been right all along. Allison, the original Allison, who was retired by this point and lived alone, it having taken Mitch 34 years to get to the point where she could read the book and understand it. The two women sat down for dinner. "How is he?" the elder Allison asked, still full of anger and malice. "Ugh, it's not malice," Allison, who used to be Mitch, said to her older self, before realizing Mitch could be malicious sometimes. He could be mean and cruel. "When I was him, I didn't know I was being cruel. I was mostly sad." The elder Allison nodded, knowing it to be true. The younger Allison, who did not usually feel young but did so in this circumstance, looked upon her older self with wonder and admiration, but also dread. They talked for a long time without mentioning any incarnation of Mitch again. The elder Allison offered insight but did not reveal too much, and the younger Allison, being in closer proximity to the past, reminded her older self of wonderful things that had happened to them both, things of which the elder Allison was glad to be reminded. The two spoke like strangers who had both attended the same school unbeknownst to one another at the time, two people who knew all the same people, who had coincidentally been to all the same places. Allison the younger, the Allison who used to be Mitch, felt stunned and new, but also weary and resigned to the knowledge that it had always been this way. They talked about the divorce, leaving home, getting trapped. They talked dry-mouthed into the color swatch of the night, the air wetter than it was black. They talked about the house their dad sold after the divorce and all that went with it, and they admitted to each other how much it all meant. The older Allison was relieved to finally have someone to tell, and the younger was relieved to hear it all put into words that way. She felt exculpated somehow and humid, cross. The newer Allison returned to her husband, who was aloof and malicious, but sometimes kind and tender. He did not understand the book, could not love it like she did, and Allison learned to accept that and to love other things that he loved. He never even bothered to finish it before leaving her, and Allison learned to accept that as well. Once he was gone, she thought back on her life like it was a life lived by someone else, and she waited until she would be the elder Allison and she would receive a phone call from her younger self, who used to be her husband, and she wondered what that might be like. The end.
I love the way those two conversation stories make a bookend.
Oh, yeah.
What an evening.
Really lovely work, both of you. Thank you so much.
Indeed.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
You both read beautifully. The stories are fantastic, and really, it was excellent having you on together. Thank you both so much.
Our first reading, Matt, we did it.
We did.
Hey.
Good job.
Yay, together. So cool.
Welcome back anytime.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
I love being a part of things like that. Well, Daniel and I are here pretty much every week. Next week, our readers are Michael Haynes and Brian Hugenbrook. I do recommend checking storyhour2020.com the day of the reading, just in case of any changes. And, that's also a good place to check the calendar and learn about upcoming authors. You can watch any programs you may have missed, watch this one a few more times maybe, on the Story Hour page on Facebook. Matthew Thomas Meade, Debbie Urbanski, thank you for sharing your stories with us tonight. We enjoyed them very much. Thank you to my co-host, Daniel Marcus. And thank you, all of you who are joining us live, all of you who are joining us at some point in the future, because as long as you enjoy these stories with us, we are all in the same story hour. Good night.